Hello guys and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be reviewing this, the ZTE Axon 40 Ultra, a really high-end smartphone from a company that's trying to get into the Western markets. Is it any good? And should you spend your money on it? Well, today we're going to find out. Time for some peeling action as we break into this flagship device. It goes on sale later this month with a starting price of $799 US, 829 euros or £709 for the version with 8GB of RAM and 128GB of storage, the model I'm reviewing here. And now we've got our first look at the device wrapped in a protective sleeve. Here's some more peeling ASMR, for those of you that like that. And here we've got the three rear cameras featuring an ultra-wide, 35mm equivalent and periscope telephoto lens. Inside the box are three smaller boxes featuring a 65-watt charging brick and a USB-C to 3.5mm headphone jack hidden in there. Nice to see these still included in a phone from 2022. It's my understanding that the Chinese release comes with an even faster 80-watt charger, but from experience I can say 65 watts is plenty fast enough. And we've also got a pretty solid feeling USB-C cable, quite thick to allow for the fast charging. Last of all is something I'll be making good use of, an included silicone case. This is my favorite case style as it's light, thin, and you can see the phone within. My 2-year-old Oppo phone still has its original case, and boy has it taken a beating. From the second I picked this up, it's pretty obvious that this is a premium product. The build quality feels amazing, it's quite sturdy and it's got a good heft to it. And the camera hump is unapologetically large, which is a trend we're seeing in a lot of modern smartphones. It's a big slab of a smartphone, and if you've got small hands, you'll definitely find it challenging to use one-handed. The Axon 40 Ultra is running a flavor of Android 12 called myOS. ZTE's implementation is very similar to what I'm used to on my Oppo Find X2 Pro. The user interface combined with the high refresh rate display is fluid and pretty intuitive. I really like the experience. Having used this phone extensively for over a week, I can say I was able to get through the day with charge still remaining, and the included 65-watt fast charger was able to get the phone from 28 to 80% in just under 20 minutes. But if you're after a phone that doesn't have to charge, why not considering one you can hang on your wall, thanks to Grid Studio and their range of framed phones and devices. Apple just stopped giving the iPhone 7 software updates, so now's a great time to get one of these relics of the past on display. Get 15% off your order by using code BNPS15 and the link in the description below. Now, back to the review of a phone that's in one piece. The primary rear camera is amazing in good lighting. Just take a look at how some of these photos turned out. And the other focal lengths are also awesome to have. The macro mode is great. I've found it to be incredibly useful for close-up subjects, and the ultra-wide has plenty of detail, and the periscope telephoto lens is also handy too. Just look at the range from going to ultra-wide all the way to the tele lens. Taking photos using the night mode was also pretty good. There's plenty of detail and it doesn't look too much like an oil painting with the image processing. On the other hand, the front-facing selfie camera is actually pretty poor, and if you do take a lot of selfies, this may not be the phone for you. And I think it's that poor due to in large part to the fact that it's actually shooting through the OLED display itself. And if you have sun glare in the background, you can actually see all the individual red, green, and blue pixels from the OLED display. So if using the front-facing camera and taking selfies is important to you, I think it pretty well rules out this phone entirely. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 also enables you to record in 8K, an insanely high resolution. And here's a sample of me walking along while recording. And as we can see, I'm not exactly sure how stable it is, but this is using the built-in microphone, and there is a bit of traffic noise in the background. And here is a random CPU that I left there. I personally prefer to shoot at a resolution of 4K, and here's the image quality of me panning down from a tree in 4K. And at 4K, you can also shoot at frame rates up to 120, as seen here with our little feathered friend. One of the best aspects to this phone is the display. The AMOLED screen is incredibly bright, up to about 1500 nits apparently. The colors are great, and it's really close to all of the edges. The corners are very squared off, so you really maximize the surface area. You'll see with a lot of modern smartphones that they have a lot of rounded corners, whereas this is just pretty well square to the edges, very much unapologetically angular. And in direct sunlight, I had no trouble using the display. Instead of the usual screen area dedicated to a function row of buttons on screen, you can swipe up to leave an app and swipe from the left to go back. As far as the speakers are concerned, they are pretty loud, and they do work as a stereo pair. You've got the earpiece speaker at the top and the rear firing driver at the bottom that produce a pretty good stereo sound, but once again, doesn't have a lot of bass, but it is pretty clear. This is an absolute powerhouse when it comes to performance. The chipset in this phone runs incredibly well in synthetic benchmarks, as well as gaming and anything I could throw at it. However, if you're using it for extended periods of time, it does warm up quite a bit. And through the really extended synthetic benchmarks, the performance did degrade somewhat, but even at its worst, it still performed about twice as fast as the Oppo Find X2 Pro that I used to use. After spending more than a week in my pocket, the display surface is pristine and free of scratches. The soft touch back is also resistant to scratches from my fingernails and my set of keys, but that camera hump really makes me think you should be using it in a case to keep the lenses clean and to avoid scratches. Depending on what region you buy this from, it may come with 8 or 16 gigabytes of RAM. And also depending on what region it comes from, it may come with a 65 or an 80 watt fast charger. But the fact it's included in the box is nothing to be taken for granted these days, as we all know. But it is honestly a pretty compelling, solid phone. And for around a retail price of, I think, 700 euros or around 1,000 Australian dollars, I think this is honestly a pretty cool device. But if you plan on taking lots of selfies and use a front-facing camera regularly, honestly, I think this might be a phone to avoid. The fact that the front-facing camera is under the display is cool, meaning it's basically, there's no hole punches, no notch, no nothing like that. The screen is completely unobstructed, is pretty cool. And I think in the future that will be perfected. But for now, the image quality for the front-facing camera is severely compromised, and that could be a deal breaker if you use the front-facing camera regularly. Anyway, big thanks to ZTE for sending this review device over. I've had a lot of fun using it, and I'll probably keep using it in the future. It's honestly a really good handset with lots of performance. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and if you've liked this video, feel free to leave a like, and if you want to see more, definitely consider subscribing. I'll see you in the next video.